and take a vagabond.
This is Lisa, I'm Mark, and we're the Vagabond Dreamers. We're standing here in beautiful botanical gardens in downtown Zagreb, having left the Amalfi coast a week ago, and that's what we're here to talk about. We had a lot of expectations for the Amalfi coast, didn't
Yeah, we did.
we?
It met some of them.
But not all, as we will see. The first thing, though, I wanted to talk about was not the Amalfi coast at all, but on the drive to the Amalfi coast. Coming out of Rome, we had some extra time, and we decided to take the coastal route south through down to Naples. And I noticed right away that we'd be passing right through or right near the town of Anzio. As a history teacher, I'm aware of what happened there, but my interest goes way back to probably middle school when I read, I think, my first war book about the Battle of Anzio, which was when the Americans landed and started their big long march to Rome. And it was a brutal, brutal, brutal battle. So we went down there, we got down to the beach, which was a really cool beach.
Pretty beach.
And it kind of underscored a little bit about how horrible it must have been for the people that were participating there. Very wide open spaces, not a lot of cover, and thousands of Americans, British, and of course Germans died in the time of that battle. One of the really interesting things about Anzio and the beach was the Italian Navy in the background doing their training exercises. So while we're standing on the beach, we hear shells exploding behind us. And again, it really added to, for me, the experience of what that must have been like for all those guys that had to fight there. So that was interesting as well. So we spent a little bit of time at the British cemetery, and then we went to the American cemetery. And it's not hard to get overwhelmed by the magnitude of the crosses, the number of them that were just everywhere that the eye could see. And it does help us understand the sacrifices that people made in the 1940s. Boys, yes, 19. The ages of a lot of them are on the crosses and the Stars of David. But it underscores the sacrifice that these boys and these families made in fighting fascism. Maybe a decent lesson for today. Not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, brutal, as those lessons can be.
So heading out of Anzio, we had some car issues, and that was fun. Ended up.
Oh, the incessant beeping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ended up in Naples, but which was an insane town to drive in. But it got fixed right away, and we were on our way, and we finally got to the place outside of Sorrento, the Mare, where we stayed.
Yeah, the Mare Hotel, which we were really excited about. The Mare had supposedly a wonderful view, had a pool, and it was not in the cluster of the city of Sorrento or any of the actual small towns, but rather on a hillside, which we also knew was going to present some problems. We had anticipated taking transportation and actually not renting a car from Rome. We were going to take a train, but then when we looked at the location, we realized we're not going to be able to do this without a car. So we'll talk about how it was a little bit of both, but the hotel was darling. And we had some reservations as well. You know, on a journey this long, you don't always know the hotels you're going to get. Mark and I just finished doing a top 10 list and a bottom 5 list because what do you do with each other 24 hours, 7 days a week? Anyway, Mare had some really scary reviews when we started digging. We kept an open mind, and quite honestly, it was a really lovely stay. And the views. The views were 10 out of 10 out of 10, just gorgeous. The pool was lovely, and it was a great spot.
And a lot of the reviews were right. But
we didn't experience it really.
The promise of the Amalfi Coast, of course, were the views and the beaches. And so we took off in the next morning to head down to Positano. Because there's the best beach.
Yep, number one beach in the area.
Is supposed to be there. The driving is literally insane. You have to, I think, be certifiably insane to drive there on a regular basis.
It works.
Okay, that was good.
Thank you.
The motorcycle riders in particular have a death wish, and you could see that death wish fulfilled along the side of the road quite frequently.
Crosses and crosses and crosses, and we're assuming it was mostly motorcycles. They gave no cares
about anything.
Yeah.
And the roads are narrow. We knew all this, and I was fine. It really lived up to its reputation. But getting to Positano, a very cute town, built on the side of a hill, very steep.
Views were beautiful.
Views were beautiful. The beach, not so beautiful.
Well, and I'm beach picky. I think by now, anybody who's watched more than 2 videos knows that I have a level of where the beach is. And,
so you weren't enthralled with spending $60 for a beach chair.
4th row back, because the first row on a rock beach, which we know that a lot of the coastal beaches are rocks, and there's some advantage to that and there's a disadvantage to that. But I said, yeah, well, let's be on the front row so we don't have to walk through these rocks. And the front row was $90 for 2 chairs and an umbrella, and we don't spend that on a dinner.
But then we were richly rewarded by getting in the water and sort of wading through an oil slick, and the dirt and the trash and the litter. Really a disappointing beach for sure. But really the views were amazing.
Yeah, the cliffside views, absolutely. So you get some, you don't get the other.
Yeah, that's true.
But
we took off the next day to get out of the Amalfi coast for a little bit to go look at some of the historical icons. And we headed to Mount Vesuvius because we climbed Mare Etna. We might as well climb this one too. So
Vesuvius is right outside of Pompeii. It's not a terribly hard hike. It was it was hot, but it wasn't hard. It wasn't long. Sorry.
See, apparently we went on different hikes, but that's good. We have to do something separately. Go ahead.
It was a decent hike. It was like 2 miles up a hill.
Straight up a hill.
It was
in the 90-degree weather. It was fine.
It was great.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. It was cool. And Mark was disappointed because it didn't look like what he had in his head, which we never know what he's got in his head.
No, when you see the pictures, you see the big crater and all that, but when you get up there, you can't really see it.
But most of the pictures are taken from a drone. So, you don't see it cliffside. Anyway, it was really cool. Learned a lot about the crater.
Met some really fun people from Boise, Idaho.
Yes, a great group.
We left Vesuvius and headed over to Pompeii, which I guess if you're going to that area, you pretty much have to
And if you like dead bodies, you have to go find them.
And that's what we spent a good chunk of the afternoon doing. Pompeii actually overwhelmed me with its size. I had no idea how immense this city was. And they've done a really terrific job, of course, restoring lots of things, but...
The map was nuts.
The map was crazy. Lisa is making some archaeological observations.
I feel like you need a roof, at least one.
It does appear to be a city without a roof. Interesting. That'll play here in a little bit, showing all the people looking at their maps and bumping in the walls, and yeah, it was nuts the way they had it laid out. I finally actually figured it out on our way out, but that took a while. I was mostly in search of course, the iconic bodies that were encased in lava and preserved, that have become such a fascinating study for people of that time period. And we weren't disappointed. It took us a while to find them, but we did. And it is as interesting as I expected it to be. But I really was super impressed with just the whole layout and again, the really big size. That was a big city.
It was a big city.
And I had no idea.
Just a bunch of rocks.
Does appear to be that. No trip is complete without a hike.
Right. So because Vesuvius wasn't really a hike, actually in our last video I mentioned the Path of the Gods. Now that was something that we've been planning to do out of Atrani. There's a couple of different ways you can get there. But the more we researched how to get to the Path of the Gods and where to start and how to end up and what train to get on and what bus to take and how many people would be on, we both went, this is not a hike for us. It was far too complicated logistically to get there from point A to point B, and we were afraid that it was going to be body to body to body to people, and I think that's probably what would have happened. So we found an all trails. That should be the first red flag, because all trails in outside of the U.S. is not nice to us. So, but the hike, most of it was really, really cool. So we parked in, don't even know where we were anymore. We found a way to get on the trail. We started hiking. It was pretty bushwhacky. And at the top of the first half mile, we heard this sound like mules or something, and it was, and I don't think they were mules. I think they were some kind of a draft horse, and they were absolutely gorgeous, and they were hauling lumber for this farmer, and it was incredible. These horses, this one with the blonde mane. These were some of the most well-behaved, vocally trained horses, and just gorgeous. So that was the first treat. And then we made our way through, the goal was to end up at
The Ironworks.
the Ironworks, a waterfall. None of that happened. We got off trail. We won't talk about the conflict ever again.
We ate sausage and
We ate
bread.
sausage and olive bread, and actually ended up where we couldn't go any further, and that's where we're not talking anymore, about at a beautiful over cliff, and it was a view into the bay, and it was gorgeous, but we were stopped, and so it was an out and back.
We got our miles in, plenty of them. It was very interesting. The terrain was interesting.
And found goats on the way back, and that was cool too.
Yeah, the goats. Yeah,
Yeah,
and a lot of wild boar scat that we saw
Yeah,
throughout the thing.
yeah, and wild boar comes back on us, but anyway,
In another way.
ended up being 6 or 7 miles, which was a hike, and it was good.
It was good.
It was good.
I think our best time on this trip was in the city of Sorrento.
Yeah.
Once we finally got into the town itself, it was really fascinating.
It really
And
was.
we had, we were keeping track for a long time of our favorite pizzas on this trip, and this would have gone right to the top for us. The Naples style pizza was terrific, and we found this one spot that we went to twice, and we never go back except when we do. And that was great, but a very walkable city. And then we were standing there, and we looked down over the cliff to the beaches below, way down, 800 feet or something down. So we had to go, of course. And we, the beach wasn't really.
It wasn't really a beach, a little bit of black sand, but mostly it was just boardwalks with lots of umbrellas and sunbeds and people swimming in pretty clear water. And that was a treat. It was an overcast day though, and we didn't have our suits, but we did enjoy sitting there, people watching, and just kind of enjoying our last day in Amalfi.
Yeah, we really, really did like Sorrento. It was, you
walkable.
You start thinking about, could you live here? Well, if we were going to have to live there, Sorrento would be the place, I think.
So we already answered our question. No, we wouldn't live here, but you know what? There were peaks and valleys on the Amalfi Coast, and we enjoyed it. Not sad that we went. I'm glad we went.
Right.
Also, lemons. We had the best lemon ice. In fact, we made it was truly.
I broke some laws.
But it was truly, truly good. So find a lemon ice. There's a picture of it. So find a lemon ice gal, because it's truly delicious. And we had lemon sorbet, which truly was a very creamy, yummy lemon sorbet. So the lemons on the Amalfi Coast
Lived up to the hype.
Yep, they have.
trip, which again, I'm glad we went to, but it was probably more a victim of our expectations than it was of what it was, you know, of its own self. I mean, we were so hyped to do the Path of the Gods and for the great, supposedly, beaches, which are not great. But we really enjoyed our time there, and the hotel certainly had great views. Well, this is our last night in Sorrento, near the Amalfi coast, and in all of Italy. 34 days we spent in Italy, 4 different places.
We've eaten our weight in gelato.
Twice over. Pretty great place.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Can you live here?
Couldn't live here.
Oh no. Well,
But that's good, because you can't live everywhere. Oops.
we are off to Corsica in the morning. We'll see what that's like. This is Lisa. I'm Mark.
We're the Vagabond Dreamers.
And take a vagabond, dream of a vagabond fool. I ain't too proud to beg, but I'm playing it cool. I can do the town, I can do the walk when I'm walking with you. This is Lisa and I'm Mark, and we're the Vagabond Dreamers. We're standing here in the Botanical Gardens in Zagreb, having left the Amalfi coast a little over a week ago. We're here to talk about that.
That? I'm sorry. Start over. That was a really aggressive that, wasn't it? It was. Did you want it to be
Are we
aggressive?
going to be able to do that?
Did you want it to be aggressive? No. It was very aggressive. We're going to talk about that. That's why I laughed. All right, sorry. Start again.